I am going to teach you a yogic breathing technique named Ujjayi Pranayama and how to use it for a deep breathing beginner meditation, which in addition to stilling your thoughts during meditation, also can be used to prevent sleeping disorders, and quite simply, to get you a good night's sleep. Ujjayi Pranayama is a yogic breathing technique which has a deep calming effect on your mind, and it is sometimes called victorious breath, since Ujjayi in English means to be victorious. But this breathing technique also goes by nicknames such as ocean breath and even Darth Vader breath. These nicknames hint at the sound your breathing make when doing the technique, and this involves constricting the glottis of your throat to make this sound. But before going into the details of this, I will first teach you how to breathe correctly, which is a prerequisite for doing this technique. Now, in order to breathe correctly, you should avoid the shallow breaths you might have grown accustomed to, and instead fill up your lungs completely with long, deep breaths. You do this by following a sequence where you let your abdomen expand as your lungs begin filling with air. Then let your chest rise slightly as your lungs fill up completely. And when breathing out, you do it in the opposite order. We'll say, breathe out at a slow pace and allow your chest to sink again as the air starts to leave the lungs. Then slowly contract the abdomen as the remaining air leaves the lungs. This is deep breathing, also referred to as yogic breathing, and I will now demonstrate how to do it. You should sit with a straight back while practicing this deep breathing, preferably in a stable asana such as Padmasana. And you could learn this asana by clicking on my video up here. But you may also choose to sit on a chair to sit straight when doing this deep breathing, or any other position comfortable to you where you sit with a straight back. And when learning to breathe like this, you can even choose to do so in the Shavasana pose, we'll say, by laying down on your back with your muscles relaxed and your arms and legs spread out from your body. Breathing correctly in such a manner is not something you only should apply in your meditation, but you should perform it in your everyday life as well. You may already be aware to some degree that your breathing patterns change depending on your mood, but the opposite is also true, and you can affect your mood by changing your breathing. You might have, for example, been told at least once in your life to calm down by breathing slowly when you have shown signs of anger. There's definitely truth to this, since when you are angry, you breathe faster and more shallow. But if you instead would take conscious control of your breathing, to make your breaths deep and long, the anger would gradually subside. Furthermore, I would suggest that you become more aware of your breathing patterns throughout your daily life, by paying attention to how your breathing changes as you go through different emotions during the day. And whenever you feel overly excited, you should take conscious control of your breathing to calm yourself. The technique of Ujjayi I'm about to describe can be used with deep breathing to calm yourself in such a way in any situation when you're upset or stressed. Now to do the technique of Ujjayi, you constrict the glottis of your throat a little to make a somewhat hissing or snoring sound and breathe through your nose, like this. If you have trouble understanding how to constrict the glottis, you can swallow and then hold on to the swallow mechanism as you breathe to get a feel for how to constrict the glottis. You may also gently press the side of one finger against your throat, just above the Adam's apple, to also get a feel for how to constrict the glottis. And you may keep your mouth open to get a better feel for the sound. However, remember to never keep a finger on your throat or having your mouth open when using the technique in actual meditation. The sound of Ujjayi has a calming effect, and when using the technique in meditation and listening to the sound, it stills your thoughts. You can do this technique with or without Khechari Mudra, though you should preferably do it with Khechari Mudra, and I always use it myself together with Khechari Mudra. If you haven't heard about Khechari Mudra before, this involves putting your tongue up into the nasal cavity, like this. If you want to learn how to do Khechari Mudra, you can check out my video on this topic by clicking up here. In any case, you should always do Ujjayi with the deep breathing as demonstrated earlier, doing them together like this. Something to keep in mind is that you do not need to constrict the glottis of your throat that much, just partially, and the sound you make need not be very loud, just enough for you to hear it clearly, as a slightly hissing or snoring sound. When doing these techniques, you listen to the sound of the breath, and allow your thoughts to go away by themselves. From time to time, a thought may pop up in your head, but this is fine. The trick is to not get agitated by the fact that a thought has appeared. Instead, you stay calm and choose to not chase after the thought, just allowing it to fade away by itself. If the thought is interesting, you may make a mental note for yourself to indulge in it at a later time when you're not meditating. But for now, just allow it to fade away without following its trail. Sometimes, you might also completely forget about listening to the breath and instead ending up inside of a thought. But just continue to listen to the breath as soon as you remember. And do not get agitated by this or entertaining any thoughts of failure due to forgetting the breath. Getting angry or encouraging feelings of failure serves no purpose, but upsets your meditation entirely, and just makes a string of thoughts pop up. Also endeavor to sit completely still while performing these techniques, and only allow your abdomen and chest to move with the breathing, otherwise you stay completely still, and this stillness will soon make hypnagogic images appear before your closed eyes. Now a quick word on hypnagogic images. These are colorful light patterns, such as which could be experienced just before or after sleep, and which sometimes are referred to as phosphines. In either case, as soon as they do appear, you should concentrate on them, as they would then lead you into a trance-like state of deeper meditation. I might also add that you should sit in darkness to be able to clearly discern these hypnagogic images. Now a word about the duration for Ujjayi. Initially, when doing deep breathing in meditation or everyday life, you should combine it with Ujjayi and constrict the glottis of your throat for about 5 to 15 minutes, for example. But after this time, you can stop constricting the glottis. Just continue with the deep breathing. And even though the sound of your breathing is not as pronounced as when doing Ujjayi, you should still be able to hear it without problem by focusing your attention upon it. The progression of first doing Ujjayi and then letting go of it is well thought out, as you are first forced to become aware of your breathing by the more pronounced sound of Ujjayi. But then as you become more used to listening to the breath, you don't actually need to have it as pronounced as in the beginning of your meditation. However, don't feel afraid to once more add Ujjayi back to deep breathing whenever you would need to hear the more pronounced sound, to help you get back into a deeper state of meditation, if for some reason you was pulled out of it. Now a good time to perform Ujjayi and deep breathing is, for example, just before you go to bed, in order to calm the mind, so as to fall asleep more quickly once in bed. But you could also perform these techniques when laying in bed. This is especially useful if you're having trouble relaxing at night or suffer from a sleep disorder. You perform this in a similar way as when in meditation, but instead of sitting in a meditation posture, you do this when laying on your back, although you could also lay on either of your sides if you're more used to sleeping like this. Then you do deep breathing with Ujjayi for a while, listening to the sound of your more pronounced breathing, until you only do deep breathing without Ujjayi, and then when the hypnagogic images appear, you concentrate on them while still listening to the sound of your deep breathing. After some time has passed, you might even let go of consciously controlling your breathing, and just concentrating on the hypnagogic images. This will eventually lead you into sleep, but do not think about sleep or yearn for it. Such a chase after sleep is similar to chasing after thoughts in your meditation, and will only lead you away from your relaxed state. Just relax, and know that this state gained from these techniques is in and of itself recharging your energy, and sleep will arrive when it will arrive. Do not worry about it. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Also subscribe and click the notify button to be informed when I release a new video. And don't hesitate to ask me any questions in the comment section of this video. I'm always looking forward to hearing from you.